tell us. Okay, we're live. Go for it, Jess.
Yep, it'll tell us. What's going on, everybody? We're back here on the Six Rings Kane show. As you can see, today you get a different side of me. You get to hear the revving of my engine. You get to see me in a different light per se. But we are joined by a very special guest, a very exciting guest. I'm excited to have him on the show finally. It's none other than John Michaels from 680 The Fan, but he's really a Kane, man. It's John Michaels, you, baby. What's going on, John? How's it going?
Man, it's awesome to be on with you guys, and it couldn't have been a better time. I mean, when this first week comes around and you lose to Florida State, I go, this is going to be some crap. I don't want to talk about Miami right now, but with all the news that came down a couple of days ago and all the speculation, it's awesome. I was telling Vish off the air, you guys do such great work down there, and it kind of makes me, living in Atlanta, feel like I'm at home. I get to read all the stuff and watch all the videos and listen to all the podcasts. It's awesome what Ethan's put together, and glad to be on with you guys.
Well, we appreciate it, man, and it's always great to have big time Canes fans on the show, and people who really love the program and really care about it, because obviously Of course, I've heard you on the air with a couple of the guys down here on 790 or 560, and just the passion that comes from you. Oh, and by the way, we're joined by Vish and Danny too. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
Hey, yeah.
We've already gotten. Danny's is already getting razzed in the chat for the Nebraska shirt. It did not take long. So, John, I don't know if you saw last week, but Danny showed up in a shirt it was wearing a Nebraska sweatshirt for some reason.
My goodness.
It was the only long sleeve shirt I have. I live in the Northeast, so I got to dress warm no matter what. And unfortunately, I chose the wrong shirt, and these guys had a lot of fun with it. So I'm kind of glad that Jazz is a black screen today. I'm kind of glad Jazz is a black screen.
What size do you wear? Because I've got a bunch of extra Miami hoodies. I'll throw them in a box and send them to you.
XL. XL.
I've got some. Make sure offline. Send me an address. I literally have a bunch of extra. They're older hoodies, but I'll send them to you because, in Georgia, we get cold. When I say cold, it's 45 degrees, and this is all I ever wear. I go to work like this every day.
That's awesome.
That's
all right.
Awesome. So real quick, let's kind of dive into it. I mean, look, John, you actually brought up a great point. Like, we were all, somber on Sunday. We're like, oh, crap, here we go. We got to talk about that FSU loss. I mean, this is not going to be fun. This is not going to be fun to talk about. And then, boom. I would probably say the biggest news that we've heard all year finally comes down, and the biggest domino drops. I think a lot of people don't realize how big it was, that this is what needed to happen for things to really, quote unquote, change for the program, right? So obviously we're talking about the firing of Blake James. We were on a couple days ago also with Flo and Max, and kind of did a whole thing on that and how excited we were at that time. But listen, the excitement hasn't kind of waned off at all, right? Like, we're all still talking about it. Everybody is throwing out ridiculous names and some legitimate names. Give me an idea. Give me your thoughts on what you think about the whole situation and what your first reaction was, and kind of seeing down the line what's going to happen with this program now.
Anybody that's followed Miami has known for a long time where, the biggest problems were, and it's not just football. I mean, when you look at a baseball program that's gone to Omaha now 2 out of the last 13 years, when we used to basically have a passport set up to go to Nebraska every single year. You have a basketball program that's the bottom third of the ACC. After winning winning the ACC championship back in 2013, you knew where the overarching problem was, and that's the guy that's running the show. He rushed to hire with Mannuy Diaz. We all know that. That's been well chronicled. Jim Larinaga, they got caught up in the stupid FBI probe, but there wasn't a whole lot of help from the athletic department, and you hired Gino DiMario off at the end of Jim Morris's staff. There was a failed staff. Who did that? It was Blake James. And why did he do that? Because he's got guys on the board of trustees that are basically pulling the puppet strings and telling him what to do. He had no power. He had no balls. He had nothing. He was a guy that just sat back. He raised a lot of money, did some good things for the program. But when it came to having the cojones to get rid of guys that needed to get rid of, he couldn't do it. Al Golden should have been fired at the end of year 4. They never should have brought him back for that lame duck year. Mannuy Diaz should be at Temple right now learning how to be a head coach, and Miami should probably have Mario Cristobal from back in 2018. So, I went into this year, I don't want to say I'm a Kool-Aid drinker, but I'm a guy that every year, and I think part of it's living in Georgia, and I hate hearing all the Georgia fans tell me how irrelevant Miami is. I looked legitimately at our team and I said, look, we got 19 starters coming back. We have a 6-year senior quarterback in De'Aaron King. We have opportunities playing Alabama at the beginning of the year to be really good. By the first half of the first game, I knew where we were. I sat 3 rows from the field and I said, this is the same crap I saw last year against Clemson and North Carolina, and nothing's gotten better. So for the program to legitimately get better, you needed a real leader to come in there and get rid of the crap that they permeated the program. And Blake James is that guy. Now, can you go out and find an athletic director that's given that power and has the cojones to actually go out and make moves? This is the time to do it. Because I'm here to tell you, if Miami screws up this hire, it's done. The program will never come back in our lifetimes. It's over. We're this close to being gone already. And I don't know. We're never going to get back to the 80s. Those days are gone. We can contend some years. But if you don't nail these hires right now, sayonara. Miami will be a great program from 30 years ago that'll be talking about it like Georgia Tech talks about their titles in 1925. They just won't matter anymore.
You know, by the way, first of all, you were speaking vicious language, man, when you mentioned baseball and basketball. I know I could just see him getting all giddy because
I feel like I'm shouting into the wind when I do that because I was like, with the football team, it's like we have other programs that also suck and they count too.
I mean, and I'll say this: like, there's a lot of people that grew up Miami football fans. I grew up in South Florida. I was born there in the 70s. I watched the Canes, from Ron Frazier, Howard Schnellenberger grow. My second love was the baseball program. I used to listen to 610 WIOD, the great Sonny Hirsch, and I would listen to Miami baseball games on a Wednesday night, on a Saturday afternoon. I was a 9-year-old sitting on the roof of my house in Fort Lauderdale or in West Palm when we moved up there, and that's what I was listening to. I remember guys like Rick Rather, the Saver. That tells you how long I've been a Miami baseball fan. And one of the great joys I always get here in Atlanta, when they play Georgia Tech, it's $5 to get in the game. I can go sit there right behind home plate, wear my cane stuff, and we were always good. We haven't been good in a long time, and I hate watching us 27-25, and we're begging to be in the tournament, getting into the first round and losing to Mississippi State, and everybody's going, oh, look at the progress. Screw that. Miami should be one of the final 8 every single year in baseball, and yeah, Vish, it kills me. I watch on a Wednesday night, and I go, how the hell did we just lose to Stetson? Like, what the hell's going on with our program?
Yeah, you're so right. And
these are true examples. Losing to Stetson on a Wednesday night is something that happened.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. For all of you that don't follow baseball, that's real. All right, that really does happen. So, and you're right, and it should never happen. Especially, now we got the number 3 recruiting class in baseball this year. And whether all of them sign or not, you still got the number 3 class. That means at least half of that team is going to be playing baseball for you. And you've got a bunch of studs there. There's no reason why you shouldn't be in the top 10, ranked in the top 10, competing for Omaha every single year. You're absolutely right. So, look, I mean, all of this obviously, again, stems from one main issue, right? You cut the head off the snake, and maybe things starting to happen now, right? So, obviously there's a lot of names out there that we keep hearing, John, and I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about the names that we are hearing and what your take is on it as far as AD is concerned, right? So, let's throw out the first name, right? Alonzo Highsmith, okay? Actually, we'll do this. We'll do Alonzo Highsmith and Gino Toretta both together because those names have been, tied together a lot in this whole process. And obviously, look, a lot of us are huge fans of Zoe. I'm a huge fan of Zoe. I think that he can come in and be an integral part in the football program. What's your take on those guys and maybe some other guys like Tom Jurek and some of the other ADs that they're talking about in the country that, all over the country that have been, kind of tied or linked to this potential opportunity here for them?
I'll start with Gino and Alonzo. I know Gino. We text, we talk. It's not like we're best friends, but I've gotten to know him through the media industry. I have him on in Atlanta. Anytime Miami plays FSU or has a big game, I'll call Gino when he comes on and is always very generous with his time. I also like the fact that Gino has grown a business. Touchdown Radio didn't come from nowhere. That was Gino's brainchild, and he helped grow it, and it's a national brand. He's got a financial background. Now, how much does he know about running an athletic department? Who knows? but you bring guys in around you that have the financial or the background and the wherewithal, as second in command and everything else to really help out. So that's where I like Gino. If Gino comes in and Alonso's a package deal where Alonso's going to run football and Gino would kind of oversee everything, that's a home run to me. And I know people like to go, wait, these guys don't have athletic director background. Blake James didn't really have an athletic director background. Sam Jankovic came from Washington State, and he's the best athletic director Miami's ever had. And I get it. They've hired some bad guys, Kirby Hocutt, Sean Eichhorst. Those guys, get rid of them. I don't ever need to hear from those dudes again. But if you bring in guys that know everything that this program is about, Gino obviously won a Heisman and a national title. Alonso was part of the building block of the 83 class that won the first national title. They know what it takes to win in Miami. And I know there's a lot of times that gets overblown. Hey, they were around the program. And there's times that that's wrong. But there's times when people in a certain situation like Miami, we're such a unique job. Having somebody that's been there before, I think to me makes a ton of sense. Gino and Alonso to me is a home run because I think if you get Gino and Alonso, the guy out in the Pacific Northwest suddenly becomes a hell of a lot more interested in coming here to be the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, look, by the way, here it is.
There you go.
It's a lot better, right? It's a lot better.
Yeah.
I did like the first 48 thing that you were doing. It was almost like we were reenacting a crime scene. You're getting out of the car and opened up doors and everything else.
Well, I first tried to kind of like, make the mood kind of like sexy time jazz, but it didn't really work. And, I forget who I'm trying to really.
It was rather nauseating, so please never do that again.
You got it, Danny. Again, I know we spoke about this a lot on Monday, Vish. And Danny, you weren't here, but you still kind of know the news.
Yeah.
All these names that are being thrown out, look, at the end of the day, it's got to be that they are going to be able to just let the football program do what it needs to do, right? Like, forget about the. Look, there's certain guys that we all. I mean, I love the Jurek. What is it, Tom Jurek?
Yep.
Is that his name?
Louisville guy.
Yeah. The Louisville guy who hasn't. Obviously his big thing is that whole investigation that happened at Louisville, and he hasn't been an AD for about 3 or 4 years now. But whatever, man.
The backstory on that is he was let go by Louisville because of that. He sued them. They had to publicly acknowledge he had nothing to do with it and is clean, and they converted to a retirement and paid him his money. So he was essentially a victim of a witch hunt out there. They were trying to blame him for stuff that the basketball program was involved in that he had no knowledge of. So
I mean, let's be honest. Rick Pitino has been dirty as long as the day is. I mean, this is a guy that was not, I can't even call it allegedly because I think he got in trouble for it, was sleeping with women in the bathroom of a Perkins in Louisville. So he's never seen a $50 handshake or a duffel bag full of cash that he didn't love. That whole Adidas FBI probe was nonsense. And the fact that Miami got caught up with it was terrible. But you think about the success that Tom Jurek had in his time at Louisville. I think they won a national title or 2 in basketball. He obviously elevated the football program and made some good hires there, whether it was Charlie Strong or other people that he brought in. And the baseball team went from irrelevant to all of a sudden in the top 10. He knows what it's like to run, and he got Louisville into the ACC as well, which doesn't hurt, bringing more cash into the coffer. That doesn't bother me at all. Jurich is a guy that, of the names that I've seen that aren't Miami ties, I'd be really intrigued with, because he's also got a screw you attitude that's you know what, I'm going to do things my way. Maybe I color outside the lines just a little bit to get guys in here, but let's be real. This is college athletics. I live in SEC country. Anybody that tries to tell you that all these programs are clean are dumb as hell, because every one of these programs is handing out money. They're doing backdoor deals. They got slimy boosters and everything else. Might as well embrace it. I'm not saying Nevin Shapiro, he's a piece of crap, but go find some guys along those lines that, you know what? If a guy wants a Charger, give him a Charger. Just call it an NIL deal now. Tom Jurek, I think, will give you some of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that obviously the NIL deals have changed the game. And I think that the whole thing with with his investigation, whatever. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's bullcrap anyways. So I like that. I like the opportunity. But I'm going to go back to the Gino and Zoe thing. I think that's a perfect marriage per se. And
so the thing with people talk a lot about athletic director experience, Like John mentioned,
he's a businessman.
Gino's a business
all
guy.
The credibility.
But he's run large organizations.
Right.
He's an asset management. You know how many zeros those guys deal with? Like, he's not going to have an issue handling the budget. And we think about what the athletic director's job is. A lot of that is allocation of resources and where to put your money smartly and all that. That's what he does. That's what Gino Torre does. And it's very common in the business world for, CEOs to jump from one industry to another. They're a CEO, they're a big time manager. That's what they do. That's their skill. So they'll be like, running an automotive company, and then they'll go to like soft drinks, and then they'll go to this. It's not the material. It's knowing how to run a large organization, how to manage a massive budget, how to set the tone for a big organization, and that's what we need. And as John said, he's a guy who will bring that mentality of frankly the drive to win that's been completely lacking. Like, he's not going to accept mediocrity here.
Well, and Zoe I went to the Michigan State game, flew down. Zoe was walking around in the parking lot, in the tailgates, telling people he wants to be a part of the program. Why would you tell him no a second time? You already screwed him over once, and that's because Blake James was too coward to have an alpha male in the building with him, like an Alonzo Highsmith. If you let him walk again, Alonzo probably just goes, you know what? It's not meant for me to ever go back to Miami. When you got guys like Joaquin Gonzalez, Ed Reed, Colin McCarthy, former players that are saying and endorsing somebody like Alonzo Highsmith, I think the school would be really, really stupid and short-sighted if they just walked away again.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, Gino's another one that's been on record saying that he'd be more than happy to come back and join the program in some sort of capacity as well. So I think, like, right there, right off the bat, you've got two guys that are qualified, number one, because that's the most important thing, right? Like, this is not about when they played football here or if they're alma mater, or it's not about that. Like, if you take away the fact that they played at UM, you still look at their resumes, you say, these guys are qualified. These guys can come in here and change this program. So that's what I'm excited about with them too. There's some other names, right? Pat Chun from Washington State.
No thanks.
Sounds right. Listen, I'm with you. No thanks either. Brian White from FAU. No thanks either. So these are all guys that have been rumored. But I just look. Here's the thing, right? Things have been already in play. They've been in motion for almost 6 weeks now, and obviously some of us that are kind of in the know a little bit more about what's going on. The whole search committee, everything else that's going on that's being announced now, is kind of just something that they need to do, right? Like
we've all watched The Wire and we've all watched The Sopranos. There's things called a front, and what the front is right now is we're going to tell the national media we're putting a search committee together. They're going to pay Korn Ferry, and I think that's one of the big search committees. They're going to pay them $100,000, which to Miami, $100,000 is like one of us handing over $5. They're going to pay Korn Ferry $100,000 to give them 10 names, and the 10 names are going to be the names that we all know. And then they're going to pick from those 10 names. They're going to say, we had a search committee. It's called a front. Right. We all lived in Miami or in South Florida. You all had that convenience store or the flea market that had, they had the bootleg Nike and back in my day, the Karl Kani jeans that were fake, and maybe had you know what that was a front for? That was a front for selling weed or cocaine or whatever it may be. We know what it is. Putting out the front, it still is. Putting out we have those in Atlanta too. They're record stores normally, or strip clubs. But you put out that front to put people off the scent. Jazz, you just said it right. This isn't something that just happened this week. I've heard rumblings from people that are in the know, like you guys are, that this has been going on for well over a month. The second we lost to Michigan State, 38-17, the wheels started spinning to change the program. They knew they had to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The other thing you use that search committee for is if you're associated with Miami, you can't be calling up people that are employed. Like, you can't call FAU or Washington State's directory assistants and be like, connect me to your athletic director. We're going to steal it. You got to use it. You got to use an intermediary. So like, they already know what they're doing, and they put this as like a layer in between, so you don't get like charged with tampering and have to pay fines and all this crap. So there's a lot of legal protection there too.
Listen, and you can read between the lines when they're talking about putting together this meeting that's going to happen. I think it's tomorrow night, where it's former players, and it has nothing to do with the AD and the coaching staff. Like, obviously, like, listen, we know the real deal. I know people that are going to be in the meeting. So, and a lot of stuff is going to be redacted. That's going to come out to the public.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's the way it has to be, anyways, right? So, I think that meeting is going to, there's going to be a lot of things going on in that meeting that, like we've been saying, has already been mapped out, has already been planned out, and it's just about putting everything in motion, but like I hate to say this, full speed ahead, but it's.
Are you renewed, Jazz?
Yeah.
Do you deserve victory?
This is not
do you have
new
pillars
Miami.
and binders? That's all I want to know. Do you have a pillar and a binder somewhere?
This is not the new Miami, all right, guys?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, Jesus. Anyways, but so obviously a lot of that has to do not only with the AD, but what's going to happen with Mannuy Diaz, right? As we kind of talk a little bit about that and moving forward, there's been obviously rumblings already that he kind of knows that he's done, right? He's got the word that he's done. And if you saw the photos from his post practice interviews today, he looks like he just went 9 rounds with Mike Tyson. So I mean,
did it look like he had a black eye?
Yeah,
like seriously, what was that on his face?
He looked like he got his ass kicked. It looks like Nesta Silvera came up to him and said, "Hey, I'm not on your side anymore, Papa." Boom, right? That's what it sounded like. So
he looked like he had a bender on South Beach since the Florida State game. He looked hungover and beat up. We've all had those nights. I've woke up in my car on South Beach at 10 a.m. and go, how the hell did I get here? Thank goodness I was just sleeping in the car, not driving the car.
Well, thank God for that. Yeah, yeah, we've all had those nights. Oh, absolutely. So, so obviously, right. The big thing is there was 2 dominoes that really had to. Well, there was one big domino that had to fall in order to be able to get anywhere near, as we call him, TOC, the other Cuban, over on the West Coast. For him to even kind of open up and say, all right, I'm interested, or at least to be like, all right, I'm willing to listen now. The biggest domino fell, right? So we got that out of the way. Now everything else needs to there's one big, huge factor that some other people have spoken about that's going to be in the way of really getting him to come down here. But for all intents and purposes, he wants to be a Miami Hurricane, right? He wants to coach this team. There's he loves this program. But again, everything needs to be in place for him to be able to run the show. And if he gets here, he will run the city. He will run. Oh. I mean, listen, your money's no good here, Mr. Cristobal. That's what he's going to hear every damn day, right? So, but you want that. You want a guy that's going to come in CEO style and do that, right? Aside from him, we all know that he's kind of like 1A. I think 1B is Lane Kiffin. I think we've all heard that as well, that he's another guy that's in the mix. There's other ones, Sonny Dykes, even Shiano, Mark Stoops. All these guys are being rumored to have interest or to be, possibly the next head coach here. I want to get your take, John, on what you think is going to happen. Number one, does Manny even get another shot at this one more year with the new regime that's coming in? Do they kind of give him that one year of assessment for the whole program per se, or are they moving on completely? And who do you think is going to be the next guy?
I'd like to say there's 0 chance. Mannuy Diaz is coaching against Virginia Tech and Duke, and then take your turn. And don't get me wrong, I just bought I have a lady that made a custom huge turnover chain for me. I love the chain. I love the idea of it. I don't like when we're 116th in the country in turnover rate and you pull it out down 3 scores against Alabama. You look like dumbasses doing stuff like that. There's no way a new regime, and with everything that's coming out, and you're seeing Inside the U and some of these other publications that are saying Miami is going to put a renewed commitment to the college football program. How are you putting a renewed commitment? You're going to tell me, hey, but I'm going to give Manny one more year at 19-15 or 21-15 or whatever he ends up by the end of this year. No chance he's coming back. And I think he knows that. I think they're doing him and Pops, Manny Sr., a solid and giving him the opportunity to finish out the year. Here, we're not going to fire you midseason like you're Clay Helton. We're not going to let you go like you're Ed Orgeron or anybody else. We're going to give you time to play this out because the timeline kind of matches. You don't have an AD in place, and everybody's saying now 2 weeks it'll be done. Well, when would that be done? Right when the regular season ends. Mario's not doing anything until he figures out what happens with Oregon. If we want to be, kind of be jackasses, we're cheering for Utah this week to beat Oregon and knock them out of the college football playoff race. Because as long as they're in there, Mario's not going to leave, and you can't blame him. He's got a chance to win a national title at Oregon. Once they're out of the race, now you can start doing those back channels and having conversations with them. So first part to answer, Manny's done. There's no way you're bringing him back. Even if Mario tells you, no, I'm not coming here, you have to reinvigorate the program. I watched the crowds. There's going to be nobody there this Saturday. As a matter of fact, they may have added 5,000 people by firing Blake James that may show up. If they wouldn't have fired them, there wouldn't have been 15 grand there. They could have announced 45. There would have been 15,000, and we probably could have named 12,000 of the people that would have been there. So to save the program and start getting people interested again, you can't trot back out Manny Diaz next year. I will cancel my season tickets that I've had since 03 if that guy's my head coach next year. And all the stupid, don't be a fan later. I've been a fan since 1980. My child is named Kane, like his birth name is C-A-N-E, Kane. I have 15 University of Miami tattoos all over my body. It doesn't matter. I won't spend another dime with Manny Diaz getting there. So with that being said, he's going to get let go. Now where do you go? I think you pony up $25 million and hand it to Mario and hand the $9 million to Oregon and whatever Mario needs, and you make him tell you no. If he tells you no, then you move on to your next candidate.
And here's the thing, if he comes down, which is obviously rumors that he's going to be down here in a couple of weeks for some sort of family outing or some sort of family thing, you don't let him leave. Outing. Yeah, you don't let him leave without knowing. Listen, you're coming back in the next couple of weeks and you're staying. That's it. You're not going back to Oregon, right? So that's the first thing. I agree with you there. Before we kind of move forward, I want to get to what Gentlex13 just wrote here about if you can put it up there, Vish, real quick.
Yep,
I got you.
I love Gino. I love Gino and Zoe, and I love Zoe's experience, but nobody else would consider hiring these guys. It reminds me of hiring Manny. If they want to be a P5 AD, maybe they should. All right, so I want to get to this. First of all, Alonzo Highsmith is, if I'm not mistaken, the director of football operations for the Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. That means he's an NFL guy. You're going to tell me that if that guy wouldn't be interested in the USC job as a football operations guy or coming down to LSU and doing something, you don't think that they're going to give that guy an opportunity? I mean, come on.
So here's the resume, and I just pulled up. He was a senior personnel executive for 5 years with the Green Bay Packers. Pretty damn successful organization. Yeah, he left there to be the vice president of player personnel with the Browns for 2 years, and now he's a personnel executive of the Seattle Seahawks. So if billion-dollar entities, which is what every NFL franchise is, a billion-dollar entity upon themselves, has allowed Alonzo Highsmith for the last 9 years to run or be a high-ranking executive with their corporation, I think he'll be okay. Blake James was like director of ticket sales at Maine before he ended up getting the associate AD job at Miami, and then got the AD job because Eichhorst or whichever, I forget, Eichhorst or Hokut ran out the back door, and we were in the middle we're in the middle of the Nevin Shapiro scandal. Nobody wanted the job, and they go, "Oh, this little guy over here, we'll elevate him." I'm okay with Alonzo Highsmith and Gino Toretta.
Yeah, and I think they're not the same thing, right? So Alonzo Highsmith, I think, is infinitely qualified to be a kind of like a director of football operations, and like John said, he does that in the NFL. So I think Gino is more qualified to be AD than Zoe is, just because he's got that business background. And the AD job is a lot of politicking. It's a lot of raising money. And Gino is a Heisman Trophy winner. That's going to bring in money, right? I mean, it's a dollars and cents business. It's the administrative part. The assistant ADs do the administrative part, right? The AD is fundraising. It's shaking hands.
Kissing babies.
Yeah, it's also it's hiring. It's setting the tone for the athletic department, which he'll be able to do. So I think it's really what do we judge an AD on? It's hires, right? It's who he brings in, and that translates to on-field success and the fundraising. And the fundraising will be easy for him.
Yeah. By the way, money's not an issue. Okay, I know. I want you guys to understand something. Also, not you guys, but anybody that's watching. Money. First of all, money's not an issue. Second of all, Mario is the 5th highest paid coach in the Pac-12. Not in the country. Right. In the Pac-12. So money's not an issue. he's what? He's 4.5, I think now. Plus,
right. But I think when you look at what
that's not going to be an issue either.
Yeah, but I think when you look at what you look for in an AD, I think Gino does tick all the boxes. Now the question was, I think it's a fair point. I think Zoe actually, if he wanted to be like a director of football at a lot of P5 programs, would get hired without a doubt. I think the AD one's a little bit different. I don't think Gino would take it at any other school because he's very successful in business. He doesn't need this BS, frankly. So I don't know that any other school would really go outside the box like that because I don't think he's as
No,
I don't think he's at right.
Nebraska hired Trev Albert.
Yeah, that's true, and I don't think he would have taken it anywhere else either. It's a very similar situation.
Who was it the USC hired a few years ago? Lynn Swan or somebody?
Mike Garrett.
That's what it was.
Mike Garrett.
Yeah. So, I mean, this does happen, but I think also one of the reasons they do that is because of that fundraising aspect and that alum who has a lot of pull with that fan base brings the money in. Right. So Gino would not be as successful at another school where it's not like, that's Gino Toretto, here's the check. Right? I mean, that is a big part of the pull there. So you can't separate the two of him being an alum and him being attracted to us. Because when you show up and you're doing those fundraising, and it's not just the athletic director, it's the Heisman Trophy winner, wallet's open. Mm-hmm. And that is a big part of the job. The other thing with Manny is he's so fired. Because so I mean, we could talk about like the hypothetical. So you asked the question about would you cancel if the AD is, he's gone. And the reason you know he's gone is, John brought this point up earlier, they didn't decide to fire Blake James like, oh, we gave up 4th and 14, fire the athletic director. This thing has been in motion. They were figuring out what's the right timing. And what they didn't want to do is get to Sunday against Duke and fire the AD and the coach at the same time, and then say, oh, you don't have anyone even to hire the new coach and deal with that whole circus. So what that Florida State game confirmed is they're going to fire Manny, so now they could go ahead and fire Blake James now. Because otherwise, let's say Manny kept winning. Like I think the only way they couldn't fire him was if he's on that 6-game winning streak. Because we all know the team was not even playing that much better, right? Winning by 3 points instead of losing by 3 points. This is not our standard. So like we're all looking at this like this is going to fail eventually anyway. But they would have had trouble firing on a 6-game winning streak at 8-4 and say, okay, now we're gonna. So they were just waiting for that one more loss so that they knew they could fire him. Because otherwise you hold that Blake James firing back to the end of the season. After the Duke game, you can be like, we are making a change. Blake James is dead to placate people. Now that you know that you got to fire them both, you fire Blake James now, wait the 2 weeks, fire Manny Diaz, and they're not both fired at the same time.
Well, because the timeline has to work out. You got to get an AD in place. And it could, hypothetically, and I want everybody to understand hypothetically, just say Alonzo's already the guy. Hypothetically, he's hired in 2 weeks. He's still got to wait a little while. And just say, hypothetically, Mario's the guy. There's still a timeline attached to it. You didn't want to wait, to Vicious' point, to the last 2 weeks because early signing period is mid-December. If you want any chance to try to salvage that, which I'll be honest, at this point, if the 8 kids come, great. If they don't come, it doesn't matter. There's this thing called the transfer portal that'll make up for anything that you miss out on this year. But if you're trying to salvage that and keep a Shamar Stewart and Wesley, I can't even say Bisciante, however you say it, you can't. If you get him in February, great. If not, use the portal. There were over 1,000 kids in the portal this year. 1,000. That number will double this next year. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge part. It's going to be part of everyday. It's recruiting now. It's not. We shouldn't even call it the transfer portal anymore. It should be just called the
free agency.
It's free agency. Yeah, the recruiting portal. I mean, the free agency.
Yeah, you got your draft where you get like the rookies that are coming in, and then you got the free agents who are going to sign out of the portal.
Yep.
It's an easy way to recruit because you don't have to worry about, kind of developing a player. You can often get already proven players who like what you're going to get from them, like over the course of a season, and they have experience. So it's definitely an easier way to recruit now.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, John, real quick, I want to get one more question.
I'm good for like 15 more minutes. I said 9:30. I have a Falcons hit because we're going to get our ass kicked on Thursday Night Football. So
awesome. So I get to get 2 more things in. Awesome. So, okay. Oh, and by the way, I want people to understand, like, the Canes are, and people don't understand this, they're playing big boy football now. It wasn't, the Board of Trustees did not fire Blake James. I want everybody to understand. Like, there was people, that are up here, and this is the BOT. And I want people to understand, like, this is not like this is it. Like it's go time. And like John said, if they screw this up, which I can't see it happening. But again, I'd never say never.
Well, I will say one thing on that, just real quick. I know we got some questions for John, but if you're willing to spend money, you can spend your way out of screw ups. When you're cheap, like we've been, you make a mistake, you get out. Like John mentioned, Al Golden year 5 is a cheapness mistake because they gave him a 4-year contract extension in the first season. So he was on books for 8 years, and they're like, we can't fire this guy. But if you're willing to spend money, the big differentiator is you're willing to spend money, you make that mistake, you pay to fix it.
And this is to your point. Texas paid $15 million for Tom Herman to walk away after paying like $10 million for Charlie Strong to walk away. There's already talk now that they're willing to spend 21 because Steve Sarkisian doesn't look like he's working out. You know why? Because they have billion-dollar oil men that go, whatever, here's $10 million, go get me the next big thing. We've been unwilling to spend $1 million to buy out Randy Shannon. I mean, come on. We have hired, I'll leave Larry Coker out of it. I know why he was hired. We've had 3 bad hires out of 4. Mark Richt was not a bad hire. No. He was a retirement hire. He was, oh crap, here's a big name that's willing to come home. He was 19-4. 19-4 his first 23 games. I'd cut off this finger for 19-4 right now.
No kidding. No, it's so true. And now there's people with a lot of money that are willing to back this program now that Blake is gone. So that tells you a lot too. I think that at this point we're starting to play big boy football now, which leads me kind of to a question that I have. Number one, this whole rumor of Lincoln Riley being offered by LSU 8 years, $96 million. You guys know what that's $12 million a year. That's absolutely ridiculous, stupid money. I don't know if he'll take it, but I would. I don't care where I'm at. I would take it. But the point is like that, right? And listen, you're in the heart of SEC country down there, John, or up there with UGA. Does this, if we do things the right way here, right? Let's just say, and I guess this is a 2-part question, really, because I kind of want you to answer it both ways. Like, number one, if we put the right guys in place to compete, can we start to compete with the Georgias of the world, with the SEC, the top tier SEC programs, right? Can we get there? You see every day what Kirby Smart is doing over there, right? What he's doing in that program, and how he has them. I mean, obviously the best football program right now in college. So can you see them kind of doing that? Number one, and number two, who is it that you want to see in those positions at AD, at head coach, that could take us to that upper echelon of college football once again?
You know, I was on Hawk and Crowder today, and Hawkman kind of asked me the same thing. And I said, realistically, this is where Miami is. Can they compete with Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson? No, not right now. Not in the way that the economics are set up in college football, because those teams, Alabama's had a 15-year head start of proven greatness. Georgia, it's taken, remember, Mark Richt got fired. They hired Kirby Smart the same year we hired Mark Richt. We're now going to coach, which would be 3. They're still on the same one. They still haven't won a national title. And the conversation we've had for so many years up here is, all right, if Kirby doesn't win it, not that he's ever going to be on the hot seat, but man, he's kind of become a failure. He's kind of become Mark Richt. Now this year, he's got a generational defense and a great team. Can we build it to that eventually? Yeah, but it is going to require patience. What I think immediately Miami's goals have to be, and it's not even goal, mandate has to be, the floor has to be, you win the Coastal 4 out of every 5 years. Yeah, you have an occasional slip up where Pitt has a great team, or Virginia Tech, whoever they hire has a great team. 4 out of 5 years, you need to win the Coastal. I don't want to hear that, Virginia's got Brennan Armstrong. Brennan Armstrong shouldn't hold a candle to Miami. Sam Howell and that god-awful defense at North Carolina shouldn't be beating you 3 years in a row. So you should win the Coastal 4 out of 5. That's my floor. You should win the ACC 2 out of those 5 years. So you get to the ACC title game 4 years, you win it twice. That means you're beating Clemson most likely 2 out of 4 meetings. That should be the floor for the University of Miami. From there, you win the ACC and you're now going to have an opportunity. Playoffs are going to expand. I think we all know that. Within the next 3 years, it's going to be a 12-team playoff. So the field gets bigger. If you win the ACC 2 out of those 5 times, you're in the playoff. Now, all bets are off. I just watched the Atlanta Braves. They were the dead last seed in Major League Baseball. but they got in and had that puncher's chance. Get me to December where I'm playing a one-game elimination. I have a chance to win those football games. That's what needs to be the immediate goal. 5 years from now, talk to me about competing with Ohio State and Georgia and Clemson. Any Miami fan, like I said, I'm as big a Miami fans as you guys are, but I understand the reality of the situation. This isn't 2000. This isn't rolling out Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss, immediately going to Andre Johnson. We've got a lot of freshmen who are really talented. But what we've seen this year is we are leaps and bounds away from competing for national titles. Alabama bent us over, smacked us around, and told us, go play at the little boys' table over there with Virginia and North Carolina. We're away from that. What we need, and I won't even say just Mario. What I need, my wish, I need a disciplinarian. Stop being damn friends with these players. I don't want to see another player on Saturday when you lose to FSU or whoever, 5 minutes later on Instagram posting their highlights. Social media is done. Dabo Swinney doesn't let his kids have social media during the season. Nick Saban doesn't. No. Season starts, turn off your social media. Can't accept that, go play somebody else. There's 129 other schools. So number one is a disciplinarian. Number two, have an ode to the past. Like, yes, Miami's program deserves all of the accolades they've always had. But don't just try to be like the team in the past. You have to forge your own boundary. I think what we got caught up in, especially in the mid-2000s, got to run a pro-style offense. What? The spread was in vogue, and it took us 20 years to realize the spread was there. I think the 4-2-5 that we run is an antiquated defense that tries to combat the spread. So find somebody that's got a little innovation to them. Find somebody that's willing to change. So if I give credit to Mannuy Diaz, he tried to change. He just wasn't good enough to make the changes necessary to compete. And then the next thing, and it goes back to discipline, you ain't getting the job done, get a kid's ass off the field. Again, stop coddling 6-year seniors. I don't care if you've been here 6 years. If you're not better than the kid that's a 5-star that comes in, you lose your job. You get those type of things, you're going to have a coach that demands something. Get back to practice where we're killing each other. I've heard our practices are raggedy, soft, disjointed, no accountability. Kids kind of do whatever the hell they want. They don't practice, they still play. They don't practice well, they still start. Corey Flagg, the fact that he came out after the game and said,
yep.
He said, I'm not surprised by this because this is what we do in practice. If that doesn't tell you where we're at as a program, nothing does. That's my criteria for the next head coach. If that's Mario Cristobal, hire him. If that's Lane Kiffin, hire him. That's Greg Schiano, rather not hire him, but hire him. If that's
I like him, by the way. We can cuss a little bit on here. I like him because he's an asshole and he's a disciplinarian. And who did Cristobal learn under? It was Greg Schiano, right?
Right.
Like he cut his teeth with Schiano, so they kind of have that same mentality. He's gonna come down here. He's gonna demand respect, and he's gonna demand what he wants. And if he doesn't get it, then he's gone, right? Like that's that, or you're gone, right? If he doesn't get the respect, he doesn't get that.
Plus, if we're losing a game and they're kneeling it down, we'll start a fight. So I mean, there's at least something, at least toughness, man. We're so soft now. To John's point, we're posting videos of highlights after loss. We're liking the dude's Instagram post that caught the 4th and 14. All of our receivers are like great, like goated and stuff under his. I'm like, are you kidding me?
John, what do you do if you see that, man? And you're the coach for Mike Harley or for whoever else it was. And
it was X, man.
It was Restrepo and Mike Harley kind of saying, yeah, the GOAT, or that was clutch. Like, listen, bro, I don't care if that's your best friend. All right?
Do you think Warren Sapp, and I may have lost you because my headphones were cutting out, do you think Warren Sapp, had they lost the game, would have sent Peter Warwick or Charlie Ward a message and say, oh, you were goated, you were clutch? Hell no. Kids wanted to kill each other. You know, Michael Barrow left part of Tamarick Vanover's chin on the Orange Bowl floor. You think afterwards he was sending him a text saying, great kick return? I don't like the culture. And it's not just here. It's not just Miami. This is a kid. I've got teenage kids, and they're so worried about getting likes on social media. I'm like, dude, stop. You think some dude at another high school gives a damn about you? I said, I want you to eat them. And I need players like that on my team. The problem is attitude reflects leadership. When your coach is more worried about pulling up on a yacht, when your coach is more worried about the jewelry, and again, I love the turnover chain. I thought the touchdown wings were candy ass. I think the fact that the change should only come out when you're in a close game or you're winning. You're down 27-0. I don't give a damn if you get a turnover. Walk your ass over there and sit on the sideline. Get back into the game.
This whole
That's
NFTs, the whole NFT stuff, is absolutely terrible if you ask me. Also, and I get it; it's all about these kids trying to make a little money and stuff like that. But there's a time and a place, and I just think that it's whoever's advising them on how to do this, kind of needs to kind of take a step back and realize that the timing has been so shitty on so many things with this program, especially when they're not winning. And then then you get Tyler Van Dyke throws a touchdown pass, and they're all taking pictures with the chain and the rings and all that crap after. And I don't care if you're winning by 40 points. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, those guys, I don't care if they're winning by 40 points. They're going to turn around, they're going to see that, and they're going to bench all those guys. All right, so it's just stupid to me. So
did you by chance hear the Kirby Smart audio from the
Yes,
halftime?
I did hear it. That was wild.
What I want my
Yes,
kids to be.
100%. 100%. And that's what we need. So if you had a choice, though, John, and we'll probably kind of finish up with this. Also, we'll close out in a little bit. If you had a choice, who's your guy for AD? And obviously, if you want to have a football ops guy as well, that's fine. And who's your guy for head coach?
I mean, I'm going to go chalk. I want a combination of Gino and Alonzo. And I know that's maybe a little thinking outside the box. We're Miami. We've always been innovators. It's time to think outside the box. You know what? If Gino Toretta can handle the business side and Alonzo Highsmith is over the football operations and the two of them demand respect, that's what I want. I think Gino would elevate every athletic program, not just football, baseball, basketball, track, volleyball, women's basketball. I mean, why are we middle of the road and everything? It's time to demand excellence at the University of Miami. And I think Alonzo, you think that dude didn't go scare the living shit out of a football coach that walks in? You look at Alonzo Highsmith and he goes, you know what I did for this program? You think I'm going to allow you to go? You think I'm going to celebrate winning 3 games in a row against 2 middle-of-the-road top 25 teams at Georgia Tech? Nobody gives a shit about beating those teams. That's my combination there. And I want Mario Cristobal. We should have hired him 3 years ago. Blake James was too chicken shit to hire him back then. It's time now. Open up the purse strings. Phil Knight has never chased a coach. He didn't chase Chip Kelly when he went to the NFL. Mark Helfrich, he fired. Willie Taggart was there for 1 year. Think about it. You went from Chip Kelly, great coach in college, great, to Mark Helfrich, who was an assistant. You go, I'm just going to give him the job. To Willie Taggart, to Mario Cristobal, who took the job after having to bounce around because he got unceremoniously fired at FIU. It's not like Oregon has gone out and hired Pete Carroll. They haven't gone out and hired Bill Belichick. You're talking about the 5th highest paid coach. Whatever it takes to go pay him, to go get him, and put Miami back on the map. You do that, within 3 years, we're in the college football playoffs contending for a national title. And then I could get tattoo number 26.
Oh, what a beautiful number too, right? Tattoo number 26.
We're gonna have to live stream that. If we're in the playoffs, we gotta live stream that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. John, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and also on every day.
So at 680 The Fan is the radio station I work at locally, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. I also do a morning show on Sports Map Radio nationally, 5 a.m. on Sunday mornings if you're so inclined. But our show is really fun. I work with a former Heisman Trophy winner, a former Falcon, a former Georgia Bulldog, and another radio professional. We got a 5-man show, so it's wild, it's fun. 680 The Fan's got an app. Download that. Obviously, follow me on Twitter handle at John Michaels U. I've got the State of Miami podcast, which I don't do enough. I'm supposed to do it like weekly, usually once every 2 weeks. I'm a busy man.
We understand.
Yeah.
You just went through your schedule and
interact. Anybody that knows me, I love to have conversations. You can see the passion on Saturday afternoons. When things go bad, I'm not sugarcoating. I ain't kissing any of these coaches' asses. Whether it was Al Golden, Randy Shannon, Mark Richt, or now Manny Diaz. They felt my wrath, and that's probably why Miami never responds to any of my phone calls.
The credentials are tough. Trust me, sometimes in these press conferences, I don't want to ask the questions because I know I'll lose my credentials, so I get it. John, thanks for coming on, man. Listen, anytime you want to come on and shoot the breeze with us and talk Canes football, let us know when the podcast comes so we can check it out as well. We can listen to it all the time, and we appreciate it. Love what you're doing up there in Atlanta, and keep it going, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, thanks, man.
Man,
Thank you.
anytime, guys, you got my number, you got my Twitter, hit me up. I'm willing to talk Canes football 7 days a week, so let's do it.
Let's do it, baby. Thank you, John. Go Canes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome from John Michaels there from 680 The Fan, but he's obviously a big Canes guy, so knows a lot about the program, knows what's going on, the ins and outs. So I think that he echoes a lot of people's sentiments, guys. Just what's going on with the program now and what he wants to see. I mean, look, Danny, we didn't get to talk to you much on Monday about this whole situation. So before we'll kind of sign off in about 5 or 10 minutes here, but I kind of want to get your take on what you thought about the whole situation with the firing of Blake James, all the news that has come out since then, and what you want to see from this program also, man.
The firing of Blake James, it was kind of inevitable because when you take a look at how the kind of PR spin to this whole thing has gone, Miami didn't release a statement a couple weeks ago. They're losing games that they should win, and the writing, I don't want to say it's been on the wall for Mannuy Diaz, but there's been rumblings that he needs to be fired. I mean, we even talked about this last year. Like, we were saying, lack of passion, lack of being ready. These were the same things that popped up last year. And so, I'm kind of with John. I think, not to bring Nebraska into this because I don't want to upset Gary, but when he mentioned Nebraska hiring Trev Alberts, hiring an alumni who connects with other alumni and who may subsequently, open up the pocketbooks of said alumni, I think that's extremely important. And when you guys were talking about guys that could run businesses or guys that have run businesses, the athletic director, to me, is more of a, not placeholder, but the assistants to the athletic director do a lot of the work, right? And the athletic director makes the final decision. So as long as, the new athletic director surrounds himself with good people, I think the staff and the assistants to the new athletic director are going to be extremely important because there's a lot of opportunity for, these programs to be successful, especially when you talk about the, all the new endorsement or NLI deals and things like that. There's a lot of different avenues that these programs can, use to be successful. And so I think Miami really needs to hit, a home run with this hire and all the staff members involved with the rest of the athletic department, because failure to do so, like John kind of alluded to, that would definitely set the program back. And not just the football program, but other programs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that if we don't get this one right, it's over for a very, very, very long time, if not for forever. Vish, I want you to put up this what Gary said last. One of the bigger things that they bypassed the BOT needed to happen because they've exhibited dereliction of duty for a long time. I'll say one thing really quick, and Vish, if you want to kind of chime in on this also. Yes, it is a big thing. It's a huge thing. It's not to say that some of the guys on the board didn't have a say or didn't have something to do with it, but as a whole, yeah, I mean that's a huge thing that they did that because it kind of shows. I don't want to say, look, some of those BOT guys are great. They're awesome. Like much love to them. They do a lot for the program. They bring in a lot of money and resources and everything. So that's great. But the fact that they actually went ahead and said, all right, I mean, listen, enough is enough. And they kind of went and went one step further is crazy.
Yeah, I think it's a tipping point because what happens is everything is balanced out, right? The board of trustees is a huge group. It's not one person. It's not so. What is?
It's not even 5 or 10 people. It's more.
Yeah. No, it's a large group of people. What has happened is, as on that balance of power, it's shifted. And it's not, and it shifted kind of outside of the board of trustees, but it shifted towards even those board of trustees members, like Jazz mentioned, that were, actually gave a crap if the team won or not. and away from the ones who just like, this is a money making venture, so keep the costs low, right? That shifted out of their hands, and it was the public embarrassment of kind of everything going on around the entire athletic department that kind of changed that. So I'll put this up there as well because I'll address this. So my answer is no, and that's because they can't do anything about it. And the thing is, they were bypassed. They were also bypassed, by the way, in the hiring of Mannuy Diaz. Blake James went off and did that.
Think about that for a second.
So this has happened before, but it's about money. It's always about money, and the people that are bypassing them are bringing their own checkbook. And so that, at the end of the day, will the board of trustees be vindictive? No, because they ain't paying for this. The money, the people that bypass them are bringing their own money. They're handling it, and the board of trustees. The reason they had the power before is they were funding the thing, and they're not doing that anymore. So they'll just sit there and watch it, and they'll continue to count their money.
And that's not to say that there's not going to be a certain BOT members that are going to come out and and open up their pocketbooks. They will.
Yeah.
But this is different, man. This is big boy football, as I said. This is going to turn into something different. Just based off of what I'm hearing, the people that I've spoken to, and I don't pretend to be this huge, that I have the scoop and this huge plug and all that, but like this program is going to transform into something that we have never seen before, and those are things that get you excited about it.
And the other thing around that is, I think what we don't realize because we're so like focused on Miami is the way we were run before is so abnormal. If you read these other coaches' contract, like the school pays them $500 a year, the booster club pays them $5 million. They get another $1 million for doing a radio show. Like and our contracts like so most schools. It's like the boosters that are bringing the money in. We don't really have the boosters. For us, it was the board of trustees. It was the same people that handle the academics, that handle a lot of other stuff, and that. So if based on the changes, it looks like that are happening, we're going to be probably set up a little bit closer to more traditional how colleges are run, where you have money people funding the athletics and kind of running it, not the same people that are doing the academics and kind of stewarding the entire school. Usually those aren't the same people. For us, they have been. And so then it becomes more about the dollars and cents because frankly, they're not everyone's a sports fan.
There's something that came out today also on Julio Frank, and obviously we've kind of nailed him to the door, right, on so many things about how he doesn't care about the program and this and that and the other. I think that things that are starting to come out now, it looks like he's starting to kind of flip a little bit into that mindset of, wait, hold on a second, like I'm starting to realize how important not only the football program is, but athletics is to this whole entire school, to everything. Because when a football program is good, when they're great, when they're kicking ass and they're winning, when all the programs are winning, when athletics is doing really well, more people are going to be intrigued and interested. Younger kids are going to be interested in coming to that school, right? So that's going to boost enrollment. It's going to boost, academics, and the two go hand in hand. And I don't think he was understanding how important that was before, and I think he's maybe starting to realize it a little bit now.
I also don't know what led to that ridiculous. Obviously, I wrote about this, and we all had a good laugh on his augmenting synergistic whatever the bullshit he put out there. Like, that was such a misstep, and he got a lot, not just from me, right? He got a lot of crap for that. I honestly wonder if, like, Blake James was partially involved in that. Hey, let's release. Like, I still don't think Julio Frank gives a crap about our sports program, but he does give a crap about being made look like a dumbass. And he looked like a complete idiot in that moment, and whoever was involved in advising him to do that is probably, I'm assuming Blake James' fingerprints were on that, because that sounds like the kind of sniveling crap he used to release. Like, Julio Frank, that was not his idea. Like, he's, and right. So I think part of it's just like, I don't want to be a donkey, right? Who wants to be, and so he's I think he's realizing the importance to the community. I still don't think he cares about it, but who wants to be like, even if you don't care about it.
He was in the suite this past week and showing some of the guys how to run a cover 2, man.
Well, that explains how we ran it on 4th and 14. So
yeah, exactly.
Now it's all lighted up now.
Now he's like, oh, okay, this is why I need to care a little more, right? Of course,
right. But I mean that. So I think what that does just opened his eyes to the importance of it, and outside of the university community, right? He's in academia and he's like dealing with the private school. It's not a lot of students, and he's just in his bubble, and he realizes, oh, Juan from Hialeah is going to stab your ass. Like, I'm not joking. Like, we take this stuff seriously. This is really important to our community.
But here's the thing also, Vish, like, the academics has suffered a little bit.
I mean, that's a whole other thing I don't want to get into as my degree devalues overnight. But,
No, not at all.
No, I do fine. I'm not worried about that.
I think you're all right, man.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm not worried. But he's got that whole other thing to deal with. So this is an easy win for him to just put some money into this.
Right.
And for most people don't care about academics, to be honest. Like, people like me that went to the school do. But when you're talking about being popular in South Florida, that football program winning games.
That's all about
that he cares about. Yeah, and that he cares about. He cares about being popular in the community.
And that's
not
good,
the football.
though.
Yeah, so
Miami, you need to care about that. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right?
So he I think he got that. I think he finally got that now. That was that the program matters to people.
Better late than never, I guess. But
well, yeah, I do think his releasing his letter and then the blowback on it, he's like, oops. I think that played a big part in it.
Big mistake. Look, we're gonna know. I think just kind of the running theme is here. We're gonna know within the next 7 to 10 days a lot. Whether everything is gonna be in play. In place. Maybe not, but within the next 7 or 10 days, you're gonna know a lot. You're gonna know what's going on. I mentioned earlier the biggest obstacles, in the way of getting Mario down here. And obviously, the first one was to get rid of Blake James because he wasn't going to even pick up the phone had he not been let go. So that's the biggest domino that did drop, which is great. The second one, I think a lot of people don't realize what it is. Others think, oh, it's he's winning and he's got this great recruiting class and it's Oregon and and the facilities are amazing. It's a little more complex, a little more complicated with that. Does it have to do with? And listen, I'm not throwing anything out there that guys like Flo who know a lot more than us and are really really passionate about everything that's going on. Haven't mentioned if you heard the show yesterday. It's Nike, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Right, like. That's where I'm going to leave it. This is not coming from me. I'm not an insider on this. This is just information that I know and that's kind of out there per se. But that's where I'm going to leave it right there. It's just it's Nike, and that's another obstacle. So, which by the way, there's a lot of people that want to come in, like guys like Zoe and guys like Gino, know that we got completely bamboozled on this Adidas deal. And they're not happy about that either. I don't think Alonzo Mourning, woo! Alonzo Highsmith likes Adidas much. There's a lot of hoops that we need to There's a lot of shit that we need to take care of before everything is kind of set in stone. But there's going to be a lot of movement within the next 7 to 10 days. And for all, Manny's as good as gone already. Some are saying that he may already know, so that's why he looks like he.
I mean, I guess he's clueless enough to not know. But if they haven't told him, I mean, he should know. Like, I don't know
on the wall.
I don't know. How could you not know?
Yeah. So, a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through still, but it's all going in the right direction, and we're pretty excited about it over here. And I just don't think it's going to end. We're not going to stop talking about this for a while. And to everybody that's scared about recruiting and if recruiting is going to suffer, Alonzo Mourning doesn't like Adidas either. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he likes Adidas either. But the truth is that when you make changes like this, recruiting is one of those things that's going to change, and we're going to lose some guys, but we might also gain some guys, right? Like, let's just say you bring in Mario Cristobal, He's top 3 recruiters in the whole entire country. You don't think people are going to come over or flip over from Oregon? And the recruiting class that he has at Oregon right now is absolutely ridiculous. Lane Kiffin, you don't think that half the guys that Lane Kiffin has recruited are not going to come over? Greg Schiano and Flo mentioned this, or Max mentioned this in the show, right? Schiano made a 4-star quarterback commit to Rutgers, number 1, and then reclassify so he could come in sooner. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, and Manny's done a great job, building relationships, and he's not a bad recruiter. I want you guys to understand, like, this is how I feel. Like, I don't think he's a bad recruiter. I think he's built great relationships. He's a nice guy. But that's not what we need here, man. That's not what we need at Miami. We don't need a nice guy.
Well, especially like this class there's 8 commits. Like, I mean, no, not disparaging any of the commits, and like hopefully they stick.
Right.
But if they don't, they don't. It's 8 people. Like, we got to do the moves, man.
We have
This is not.
I wouldn't worry about recruiting. Let's
just whatever. Whatever happens with that happens with that. We talked about the portal already, but right. you set the program. Frankly, if there are people that like decommit or transfer because we're bringing in a hard ass coach, good.
Right.
Good.
Exactly. Whatever happened to Chud? Jen asked. So Chud's up in Boston, up in DJ territory up there. Yep. He's a special consultant with Boston College, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got a cushiony job, makes some really good money. Will he listen? If people want to ask him questions, he's not going to shy away, and he's going to advise, and he's going to help. And trust me when I say this, that anything that Chud says, I mean, people listen. People listen when he talks. So, I don't think he's going to move or he's going to leave. He's comfortable up there. He's got his family up there, his kids and all that in Boston. So I don't see him doing anything at all to kind of leave that position that he's at right now. But, that's another guy that, he's got the ear of Gino Torretta. He's got the ear of Alonzo Highsmith. So, listen, when you come from that type of lineage, that type of background, I think you're fine, man. I think you're fine. It's going to be exciting. It really is. So I guess we'll leave it there because I have my food there. I haven't eaten my food, by the way. All right.
I mean, we saw you order it. They missed it on the pre-show.
Yeah, my God, it's awesome. So I'm gonna go eat it. Shout out to Bole down here in South Florida.
Yeah, they didn't sponsor. What are you doing? First it was Kia, and now it's this, dude. You're just giving it away.
It's only Kia with flows on, and
you're giving it away.
Yeah, eventually something will land, and we'll get some sort of sponsorship. So. Thank you guys for coming on. I won't be at the game on Saturday because obviously I'll be out of town, but we'll still be checking in with everybody on Twitter. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Vish, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Truly appreciate it always. I think you guys are kick-ass. And thanks a lot, man. We'll see you guys.
And just real quick, thanks everyone in the chat for collaborating. You helped drive the show. John Michaels is an energy unto himself, but the rest of us kind of drag ass a little bit, so it's great to give questions through the chat and everything.
It's a long day. It's a long day, and that guy is still chugging along. So thank you guys. Make sure you check us out on 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hope you all enjoy the show. We'll see you again next time.
Yep.
Take it easy.
See you guys.
Go Canes.